Well, hello there. My name is Chang and I'm a rather flexible guy. And in this video, I'm just gonna go over 5 methods of stretching that you may or may not have heard about. I'm gonna go ahead and start off with what I believe to be the least effective and then work my way all the way up to what I believe is the most effective. Now, without doubt, undoubtedly, these are just my own personal opinions from years of stretching, personal observation, and anecdotal practice on myself. Sometimes to good results, sometimes to bad results, but most of the time to good results. Alrighty, let's hop right into it. Dynamic. Okay, so the first style of stretching I want to talk about is dynamic stretching. If you're unfamiliar, dynamic stretching is stretching where you move your body through a particularly large range of motion using a little bit of momentum. It's typically a lot of front kicks, which are really good, some back kicks, again, same principle, really good, and side kicks, which are really good. Of course, dynamic stretching can also look a little something like this, down and up, down and up. The rule here is slowly moving your body through the range of motion. And as you start to warm up, you just start to kick higher and further or reach further and faster. The good thing about dynamic stretching is that first off, it's really easy to do and it just uses whatever range of motion you have available to you. And then you just slowly expand upon it as your body starts to heat up. This means that dynamic stretching, usually in most athletic endeavors, is an excellent way to start your warm-up routine or your stretching routine. For example, if I'm gonna go ahead and do like some leg workout or leg stretch, I might go ahead and start with some nice kicks, butt kicks, some nice big old hip circles just to get the body feeling nice and good. Of course, that does mean that dynamic stretching is never necessarily the workout or the important part of the workout or the stretching session. If you were to go ahead and try to get really flexible by just dynamically stretching all the time, then good luck to you. It's gonna be rather difficult. Therefore, we put dynamic stretching as 1. None of these are bad, but there are levels to this. Let's go to number 2, flows. I first encountered flows when I was in college or something like that. And I took kind of like a yoga class and I had to do the sun salutation. I totally forgot how to do the sun salutation, but it was pretty cool. And the great things about flows are that it mostly, typically, in my experience, hits the entire body from toe to bottom. Point is, you start in one position, you transition to the next, and then you bring it all the way right back up into a full circle, and then you repeat it. One of the really good things about flows is that it just gets your whole body moving in a fixed pattern. So it's really easy to do this one basic flow today and the next, and then becomes a little bit part of your routine. Typically speaking, if you know what flows are, then it's more of like a group environment type of stretching. Not to say that you can't do it on your own, because you definitely can, but from my experience and just listening to other people, normally it's done in large group settings where you stretch together with other people. It's a very good way to start to get yourself into stretching if you're like, I don't want to do this by myself, but I need to stretch, so I'm gonna go take a yoga class, and the instructor has us doing these flows. Now, the bad thing about flows are, because you're constantly moving from one stretch to one stretch to one stretch, it kind of just serves as a good way to warm your whole body up, making it very difficult to just focus on one particular range of motion that you're bad at. Let's say you got like unusually tight hips, right? But you're moving through all of this, that, and that, so you might only really be stretching your hips for 10 to 20 seconds per round, and let's say you're only doing 4 to 5 rounds, and the intensity is not too high, because flows are typically about flowing through from one to another position without stressing yourself out too much. Therefore, in order to improve that one particular tight hip area, it's going to be very difficult to be done with a flow. Of course, that doesn't mean that your flow can't just encompass hip targeted exercise, because you could turn any form of stretching into a flow. It's like, for example, here's one that I used to do all the time when I was stretching. Here was my flow. I would start here, drop down low. Once I was here, pop up, open into a pancake, go down, come here, pike, here, into a egg, and then another pike, and then stand up. I say that was my flow, but that's the closest thing to a flow that I ever done for my stretching. And then you could structure your flow in a way to hit all of your important needs or all your problem areas. In that way, a flow could be turned to something kind of like a conditioning thing where you could just do without thinking too much, but at the correct intensity following whatever stretches that target the areas you need. Though I would still emphasize it's very hard to improve your flexibility doing it this way. Which brings us to number 3, statics. We are here. Static stretching is more or less the first type of stretching you've ever been introduced to. It is that basic run-of-the-mill, let's get into a particular stretch. Let's go with pancake because I like the pancake. And then we're gonna be in a relaxed position. And then as we go as low as we can and we feel the stretch and the discomfort, we're gonna go ahead and hold it for a set amount of time. Now that time can differentiate depending on your beliefs or how you're going about it, but typically it runs somewhere in the range of 10 to 30 seconds. 30 seconds is on the high end, 15 to 20 is typically what's typically held for. So you're gonna be like this, and then you're gonna hold it for that amount of time. You're gonna get out of it, rest a little bit, and then go right back into the stretch. The great thing about static stretching is it's very targeted. If you need more hip mobility, you could do a stretch for the hip. If you need more quad flexionation, you could go ahead and do a stretch for the quad. And because it's time and you do it in sets, it's very easy to keep track of your progress that way. But then what makes it difficult is, first off, stretching this way is first and foremost. I mean, I like to say that all stretching kind of sucks, but static is when you really start to introduce the suck to the stretch, where you feel the great sense of discomfort. And then besides that, if you're not flexible, and let's say you're holding a stretch, it just feels as if you're not doing very much, and then it just feels as if you're suffering for no grand particular reason. Static stretching is almost too static in that regards. Though currently it says at number 3 to be the most effective way of stretching and to get flexible, and again, it is still very, very good. Let's go to number 4, pulse. When I first started stretching, right, I never did these for whatever reason. All I knew was static stretching. But as I stretched more and more and I discovered this, I was like, hey, you know, this does kind of feel really good. Now, what a pulse is we're going to get into a stretch. Let's just use pancake again, for example. We're not going to go as low as we can. We're going to go to about 80 to 90% of as low as we can. Once we get there, this is our stretching position, and we're going to remain here the whole time while we perform the pulses. As we do the pulse, which is simply just a going into 100% of our max range of motion, and then bringing it back out at the tempo of approximately 1 and 2, out, 1 and 2, out. Of course, you could switch up the tempo to whatever you like. You could be in here for like 5 seconds of great pain, of discomfort, come out a little bit, let it all relax. And I say to come out about 10 to 20%, but you can totally just come all the way out to this nice relaxed position, settle yourself, and then go right back in. The great thing about a pulse, and it is really good, is that you're able to build up a lot of time under a very intense stretch without suffering all that intensity in one go. Instead of holding the stretch for, say, 10 to 15 seconds of horrible, unbearable ass kicking, right? When you're pulsing, you're able to rest here for a second, go into it for 3 to 5 seconds, come back, 3 to 5 seconds, come back, last time, 3 to 5 seconds, and then come back. That just breaks up the difficulty of a static stretch, but you still get all the same benefits. And I argue because of that little break in between each of those stretches or those pulses, you're able to go right back in even harder and with a little bit more clarity of the mind. Additionally, every time you enter this position of uncomfortability and then you come out of it, you're teaching your body, hey, we've been here once, we've been here twice. The more times you go out and in of discomfort and pain and suffering, the more you build up the skill to do it better or the endurance to do it more. And so if you're doing a stretching workout, stretching session using pulses, you're going to be counting reps. You're going to be like, hey, I'm going to do 1 set of 10 reps of pulses. Okay, 1 set is a little bit too low. I'm going to do 4 to 5 sets of 10 pulses for this stretch, instead of, let's say, a static method where you're going ahead and you're saying, I'm going to do 4 to 5 sets, 30-second holds. Me personally, I use pulses approximately 99% of the time I stretch, especially while I'm warming up. And I've done that for many of years to great effect. But then, if that's number 4 and it's very nice and super effective, what is number 5? Acceleration. The whole idea is this. While we are stretching, I'm gonna use a pike for this example because I'm not very good at pike. While we are stretching, we have the part of the stretch where we're actually able to move. Right now, I'm able to move a little bit forward and backwards very comfortably. This is the part that doesn't really matter. Right after this nice easy stage, we have the medium stage, right? Right now in this medium phase, I feel my hamstrings activating, the tightness, and I know if I go further, then a little bit of that discomfort is gonna start to flare up. So we have the medium phase. Now, the far phase or the high phase, however you want to look at it, level 3. At level 3 is where we get to the point where we're like, okay, right? I'm not there yet, but let's pretend this is it. Oh, okay, right here is where I'm starting to get all of my stretching gains happening here. Everything kind of hurts. It's very uncomfortable. I want to get out of it, but I know if I stay here, I'm going to get a lot of benefits. But when it comes to acceleration, and I picked this up very recently because I was trying to improve my middle splits and I was plateaued there for a long time, but I applied this and excellent. The idea here is very simple. We pretend we don't have a level 3. We just keep pretending that our level 3 is further and further and further beyond. And so when we stretch, it might look like this. I'll slow it down and I'll talk it out. We're at 1, we're at 2. Once we reach 3, we erase 3, pretend we're at 2 again, and then we go to 3. Once we reach 3 again inside our head, we erase it, replace it with 2, and go even further, and then even further. And then when we get to the point where it's like, it is physically impossible for me to go further. A gun to my head, I swear to God, I can't move another centimeter. Doesn't matter. We try to speed up the stretch. We try to accelerate the stretch. We try to go as fast as we can while we're in this really low position right here. If I was to exaggerate it, right, it would look like this. Of course, it's not gonna be that fast. In reality, it just looks like this. What that acceleration does while you're stretching though, is it's constantly forcing your muscles, right, to expand, 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 expand while they're as expanded as possible. And by doing so, you're pushing your body to new limits of flexibility, which is very, very nice and very cool. I will say you don't need to do this a lot to see a lot of great benefits from it, as long as the intensity is high, because in my opinion, in my experience, this is the highest intensity level possible when it comes to stretching. You only really need to stay in a position for no more than a cumulative time of 50 seconds twice a week. So about 2 minutes. This definitely gives you the most best results by far, and it's not even close. It's also the hardest, so it kind of makes sense in that regards. And it's always, in this stretch, is very about high effort. If there's no effort behind it, then you just turn it into something that's a static stretch, because you're damn near literally like ripping yourself into a new position. There might be a slightly higher risk injury, and therefore I don't necessarily recommend this one for everyone, especially newer stretchers. I recommend number 4. Number 4 is freaking awesome. I recommend number 5 if you're kind of like stuck in a position for a very long time and you don't know what to do. Think about acceleration, moving through the hardest part with speed. When I say speed, I mean literally speed. Okay, let's just go ahead with a quick recap. Number 1, dynamic stretching. Not bad, really good for warming up. Really, really difficult for improving your actual flexibility. Number 2, flows. Normally done in a big old group environment, but of course you could do it on your own time for personal reasons. Only bad thing about flows is, unless you're already really flexible and use it as a way to maintain your flexibility, again, it's hard to focus on any particular one part of your body, and in that way, it's really hard to improve your flexibility. Of course, you will get a little bit. Number 3, static. Static stretching. Basic, good. Hard to go wrong with static stretching. Great place to start. Easy to track, easy to time. However, it's very boring, it totally sucks, and there are better options. Number 4, pulses. Great thing about them is you can experience that really high intense pain of that you need in order to become more flexible. It immediately get out the position, rest, recompose yourself, and get back in. As time progresses, you build up more and more experience, get it going into the position and staying in there. And in that way, your flexibility will start to improve as long as you go in with the right proper amount of intensity. Very cool, very nice. This is the one I recommend for damn near everyone. Number 5, acceleration. This is the one I recommend if you're stuck in a particular position, or you just want to say, fuck it, I'm gonna rip my body apart, and if it goes, it goes, and if it doesn't, I'm more flexible. Very good for finally hitting X, Y, and Z. All right, I think that pretty much sums up the video. That was 5 stretching methods explained. So you got questions, let me know below. Now you know.